Hello, welcome to the Acorn Alchemy YouTube channel, where we discuss the shadowy aspects of life. This video is the third installment in a series called Using Tarot for Shadow Work. In this series, we are examining the tarot archetypes through the lens of the shadow. In this segment, we will continue unpacking some of the shadow aspects of the major arcana. Specifically, we will examine the Hierophant, Lovers, Chariot, Strength, and Hermit. The Hierophant archetype wants you to understand the union between what Carl Jung describes as the personal and collective unconscious. As previously discussed, our personal unconscious holds repressed memories and experiences. Jung states that the collective unconscious similarly holds deeply ingrained societal beliefs and norms. The difference between the personal and collective unconscious is experience. The collective unconscious is not necessarily based on personal experience, but represents an inherited and shared thinking pattern, impulses, or symbolic references that influence our lives. Through the lens of the shadow, the Hierophant asks you to examine how the collective unconscious has impacted your personal experiences. Are you trapped in outdated cultural norms and practices? Are you allowing news cycles filled with fear-inducing segments to shape your worldview? In the first video of this series, we discussed using a mirror to see the parts of ourselves that are otherwise difficult to observe. The Lover's archetype reminds us that relationships, in all forms, romantic, familial, friends, acquaintances, all relationships, offer you an opportunity to see yourself. If we pay close attention, we will notice how these personal connections illuminate aspects of ourselves. For instance, a romantic partner might mirror back to you your insecurities. A friend might mirror back to you your values. And interactions with family members might mirror back to you your deepest fears. The shadow side of this archetype emerges when we consistently project externally instead of looking within when conflicts arise. This does not mean that everything is always your fault or responsibility to resolve. However, when these triggers are not examined, they can lead to grudges, disappointments, resentments, and outdated stories and expectations that are no longer necessary for the life you are ready to live. Your examinations may lead you to disconnect from someone in your life, but it can also show you an aspect of yourself that you were previously unable to see, inspiring growth and self-discovery. The Chariot represents the fuel behind our driving force. This archetype helps us determine what we wish to explore and experience, and gives us the will and desire to pursue whatever that is. In contrast with the Fool archetype, who represents being on the precipice of a journey into the unknown, the Chariot has a destination in mind and has acquired the resources needed to arrive at that destination safely. Shadows may emerge when the divine spark prompts hesitation rather than motivation. Perhaps you are ignoring the desires of your heart for fear of failure or loss of comfort. Maybe you are worried about your ability to overcome the obstacles ahead. This archetype is here to remind us that there is no failure, only experience, and that the obstacles that are meant to be overcome will be. The Strength archetype speaks to internal stability and asks us to unpack and examine our feelings and emotions. As I'm sure you are aware, there is a difference between feelings and emotions. Emotions are the physiological responses to life experiences. The stirring of emotions is automatic and immediate in response to stimuli. Feelings, on the other hand, are how we process these sensations. We often process the emotions through the lens of our past experiences and expectations, and our feelings are birthed through that lens.
What helps me in the moments if I get triggered or if I have a heavy emotion is to remember the connection between emotion and imagination. They're linked because the way you feel is based on the way you think, the way you imagine our reality, your construct and subconscious. And so we may have a subconscious belief of our own unworthiness. So if someone says something that triggers that belief, now we feel a certain way and we project it onto the other as it is entirely their doing. And while they play a role, they are not the sole reason why we feel this way. But in that feeling, you not only blame the other, but you also generally will feel that this feeling will last always. Not true, but that's what we believe. And if I can remember in that moment just to question it, is that true? No, it's not true. And then the broader view, if I don't feel this now, I'll be running from it, maybe always. But if I do feel it, if I take this season to breathe and be with it, or to process it, then that turns into a plan for freedom, for liberation, for expansion, for growth.
The strength archetype is not asking us to suppress our emotions. That would be silly. But this archetype is asking us to carefully consider the story we tell ourselves about the emotions we experience. The shadow side of this archetype appears when we are lacking in emotional awareness or projecting our feelings on others. Instead of reacting to your feelings and emotions, respond to them by identifying the need the emotion is pointing you toward. If you are angry, you can't simply wish yourself into happiness. You need to unpack and examine why you are angry and address that. The hermit archetype reminds us to set aside time for silence. In the silence, wisdom and intelligence are cultivated. The silence can assist you in accessing the knowledge deep within you. Your body, heart, and spirit speak to you in whispers at first. If you want to receive the messages they want to share, you must be silent and still to hear them. In the silence, you can examine who you truly are without the labels, masks, and expectations of others. It is in the silence that we tend to our authentic selves. The shadow emerges when we have not carved out space for silence and solitude, and the whispers of this archetype become a blaring siren. In the next video, we will continue our examination of the major arcana and look specifically at the wheel, justice, the hanged man, death, and temperance. If you are on your own journey through the shadow and this topic interests you, please like and subscribe to receive notification for future uploads.